Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show here outside the Century Room on Travis Ray's birthday. Get a chance today to speak to an incredible drummer, great musician in his own right, Joshua Carruthers. Welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
How's it going?
Can you talk about like an early memory of you where you realized that rhythm or music was going to be a healing force in your life?
I don't know if I can like pinpoint one thing, but it's just been like many little things over the course of my life, which is like, you know, having memories associated with certain periods in my life of, you know, that I you know, went through, and there'll be a specific song or a specific album or something like that that'll kind of just have.
Well, give me an example. Give me an example of an album and how that carried over for a little growing band. You know.
I mean, when I first started playing drums, I got really into Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, and
Buddy Miles, kind of Hendrix.
Yeah,
Mitch Mitchell, even. Yeah.
It was Mitch Mitchell.
Yeah, Mitch Mitchell, very influential cat.
Yeah, and it was cool because, you know, I started to get into jazz shortly after that, and being able to, you know, hear what he's doing, and then listen to jazz players like Elvin Jones was like, still is one of my favorite players, and listening to him being like, oh, they're kind of playing the same stuff, even though it's just kind of slightly different settings.
Was it different because of the genre of music, or because everyone inherently has their own time feel? I mean, Elvin was playing sheets of sound, you know, I mean, that was like but you also, there's that rock subdivision as well. Can you kind of break down that, because you're talking about Mitch Mitchell and Elvin. Yeah. Those are like the two of the most, maybe not famous maybe, but can you just talk about that fine line between rock fusion and jazz fusion?
I mean,
and how you learned it from those cats, you know, whatever, you know?
Yeah, I think like rock fusion maybe has a little more of like the backbeat and kind of more of that attitude, with a little bit of, you know, jazz and some other stuff mixed into it, whereas jazz fusion maybe leans a little more heavily towards harmonic structure and like complexity and kind of stuff like that. You know, I think of like it's like Jeff Beck versus, I'm trying to think of like a more jazz oriented.
You could say like maybe like a Return to Forever. Or,
yeah,
or
exactly.
Like
exactly. Like
kind of
Jeff Beck was for sure leaning a little more on like the rock /
more
funk side.
More backbeat. Yeah, it was less.
Yeah.
I mean, can you talk about, you know, this community in general, and how you, if you feel blessed that you've been able to learn from your elders and play with your elders, and now you're sort of asserting yourself as one of the cats, and you have a chance to mentor even younger kids now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think of myself as being like, you know,
there's no legacy at this point. You're a young cat. I'm saying,
just
like you.
Like, well, I guess I've always liked doing that. People have done that for me, and so that's something that I like to do. Is kind of, I do believe in the pay it forward thing. You know, it's just not that you can always, you know, you're not always able to directly return something, but I do believe in the idea of paying something forward. So like, you know, sometimes you get somebody that mentors you, or like I've had people like that in my life where it's like they kind of went out of their way to do something for me, and it's like, you know, I can't necessarily repay that in kind, you know, but I can do it for, you know, any of the drummers I teach, or just, and that also kind of goes to just like being a human being too. And so I try to approach music and that whole thing as just another part of life in general, which I just try to practice that in like everyday stuff.
Do you feel that God is sound?
I don't.
I mean, we all have a connection to Source, and we want to allow that door to open, you know, and be innocent enough to believe in that. But like for you, playing at a high caliber level, you know, it's Tucson, but it's fucking the farm system. I'm saying, how do you connect to Source on the bandstand?
I mean, I think honestly, music is probably the closest thing I have to any sort of religion.
Why?
I don't know, and that's not to say I do have a lot of appreciation for different approaches to religion and belief, and in an odd way, I also feel like there's God even in the search for God, or even the flat out denial of God. I just kind of accept all of that as being a part of the human experience, and different people, different places. But music has always been the way I connect to something that's the closest thing I could resemble to like a higher power.
It's a metaphysical thing.
Yeah, it's just like I do feel like there's something there that just like it does strike something deeper in me, and it's not something that I've been able to do in the exact same way with religion. Although I've gotten a lot out of religion.
No, absolutely. Scripture versus feeling is a different thing. You really feel that spirit.
Well, I think the two kind of, in some ways, go hand in hand.
Right.
If you think about a lot of like the music, like in like jazz, there was that whole like spiritual era of that music, and even in a lot of the music that I like, a lot of it is kind of grappling with and dealing with the idea of the existence of a higher power. Is it there? Is it not there? If it is, what is it? And that's always been interesting to me. That's always been kind of like a through line with multiple genres. It's been a through line with jazz for sure. It's been a through line with like rock. Like I just kind of been revisiting the Mars Volta, and a lot of their records. It's a grappling of dealing with
early rock records, or specifically of which band?
The Mars Volta is like one of my hands down favorite like rock bands, and they have a lot of that kind of stuff present in their music, which I've always liked that. And I grew up on hip hop and stuff like that.
Sure.
And in that music, the stuff that I've listened to, whenever I'm really engaged with it, it's usually some sort of a kind of existential element somewhere in the music, and so I have found that as being a through line. It's like the search, the questioning, and the sometimes discovering or sometimes not discovering.
Enlightenment, kind of.
Yeah. And it's all, to me, it's all a part of being human.
Before I let you go, just where do you feel like you need to grow the most as a player or a person?
I'm continually trying to understand other people, and I think that doing music, that's something that that I am also kind of wrapped up in, is trying to understand where other people are coming from musically. And that's kind of cool because you can come from so many different places. And I talked to a friend of mine, and one of the things that I talk about with him, because we both relate off of this, is if you can get into like the music and the food of a culture, that you can always, there's kind of an in there with it, and
to the soul, yeah.
So yeah, I've always, I feel like I'm gonna be continually working on, just trying to, understand people. That's just always.
But I want to be clear, you can have arguments on the bandstand and you learn how to resolve them, and then you take that into your regular life.
Yeah. I mean
there's a lot of fighting that goes on in the bandstand. You got to learn to what you're saying is it's through that conversation that you can take that into your life where we communicate with words.
Yeah, and I think there's also always going to be people are always going to kind of just miss each other, and that's just the nature of being a person.
It's true.
And yeah, I mean that does happen in music, and hopefully we can still have an understanding and bond through the love of music, regardless of what the genre is, and be able to find some sort of meeting place, which I think that's the beautiful thing about music, is being able to. People can be so far removed from one another, you would think on paper, but then all of a sudden you start talking about like a genre of music, and somebody goes, oh man, like I grew up listening to blah blah blah, like somebody you might not expect to relate to. It's like, oh, we grew up listening to, I don't know, like Willie Nelson, or we grew up listening to like Merle Haggard or something like that, or oh man, I grew up listening to like Coltrane. My parents used to spin a lot of classical stuff, but for some reason they really like Coltrane, blah blah.
Because he was playing from his heart.
Yeah, and so like I think that's kind of the cool thing about music.
The two words are common ground.
Yes.
All right,
yeah.
that is it, because, and I think you articulated it incredibly well. And I just want to say, man, it's all about like just moving forward, like straight forward motion.
Sure.
And sometimes that comes in inches, or sometimes you get a big bolt of enlightenment, but stay on your path, man. It was an honor to hang with you, man. This was a good time.
I'll do my best, and thank you. You know, I always watch your videos and stuff, and I
you
always
give
think it's
back, man.
cool.
You pay it forward. So do
Yeah.
I, man. That's
I'll
what it's
try
all
to.
about, man. Joshua Carruthers, thank you for being part of the show. It's the Jay Feinberg Show. See you later.